Okay, so the extra breast in the raw, I went ahead and put Vaseline on the inside of it. Whether or not I'll have enough product, I don't know, and I'm not overly concerned about it. But let's move on to the one that's the most important here, which is the one that's going to go inside of my bra until I have reconstructive surgery. So I got this idea from Mike. He recommended using a tennis ball. I don't have a tennis ball, but I do have an orange. And he talked about doing this later in the process, like after it had been curing for like 10 to 12 hours, because the total cure time's about, I say the total cure time's about 16 hours. I would say it's 16 hours till you could use it / wear it, but it actually takes an entire week for it to be totally cured. So if you're not in any rush and you're doing this way early before your surgery, that would be my best recommendation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. The purpose of this is silicone weighs more than water, density wise, and it is heavier than your breasts because a breast is made up mostly of fatty tissue, which is extremely light. And so my goal here, again, is to have some weight when you put it into your bra so that it doesn't puff up like the puffy little thing that I showed you the other day. So he recommended putting a tennis ball in at like 10 to 12 hours and smushing it in and letting it roll over the sides. And I thought, you know, we could probably do this earlier on. So I grabbed an orange out of the house. It's a technical term for an orange. And I'm going to look at removing some of the excess weight from the silicone by suspending this about this far into it. So I'm looking here, and I'm just trying to get a visual estimate. So probably half of the orange probably is going to get suspended in there. And again, there is no recipe for this. I'm just making this stuff up as I go. So what I did, some skewers for barbecuing. So I'm going to use these instead, and I would imagine that you probably don't have to drill a hole in it. You just stick them through. And the purpose of this is to suspend the orange. Again, the goal taking up space inside of there. So you're using a little less silicone, and it's not going to move around. Now, my husband thought there was a possibility that one might work and one might work. So again, you know, this is pretty much a one-shot deal. I personally like to be safe, and this looks pretty balanced in here. This one's suspending a little bit, but still, if you look around the space of the interior of the breast there, you can see it's not touching the bottom, and it's going to end up coming up to here, and it's just taking out some space, so it's a little less heavy. Unless you want to pay $400 for one of those. Okay, so now we're ready to make our mix. I used a blender for this, for making the actual breast
Mixer, not a blender.
I used an electric mixer to make this. And probably the reason why I have a couple of holes in there is because it gets air in there. I still think it's the easiest way to do it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and mix our silicone for this. I'm not going to use the orange for the excess one, should I have the opportunity for that. So for this one, got a plastic bowl. Ooh. And a fork. And I got some of this right off of the website. I'm not going to do it exactly the way Mike's company says because, well, I'm a little bit of a rebel. Now, when you're ordering your mixtures, one of the things, so I need to back up the truck just for a second here. You're going to need to tell me how much of this stuff you need. The company that I got connected to, they pretty much only do industrial, and so I'm working with them, and I'm going to break it down into smaller components if this is the path you choose. How much space is in here? So what I did was I took one of my measuring cups that has both ounces and cups measuring. Usually we're going to deal with ounces. And I filled this up to 16 ounces. And I poured this into my mold. And since this is 16 ounces, when I got down to it was full, it told me that I needed 14 ounces, which Mike was able to translate into how much mixture I actually needed. It's a 10-to-1 mixture, so he sent me what I needed. You could have a larger breast, you could have a smaller breast. This is something to keep in mind that you'll need to do for me in order to order your product to make your actual silicone breast. Again, this is just for a bra insert. Let me know what it is, get a measuring cup out, note how much you filled it up. You know, sometimes you have a 4-cup measure or a 2-cup measure. You're going to need to tell me how many ounces you need, because this is more dense. It weighs more than water. So where this might be 14 ounces here, this could end up being 24 ounces because it takes up more space. Okay, sorry I forgot about that. I need to fill that in. That'll be your job to make sure you tell me how much you need. Alright, so we're putting the orange back in here. Making sure it's as centered as possible. Not that big of a deal, but in the big scheme of things, it works. And we're going to go ahead and set this aside. And I'm going to look and see where the opening to this is. Again, you don't need to be afraid of any of this chemical-wise. This is food-grade silicone, which means they use it for making candies. I don't know if I mentioned that the original path that I found for making a breast impression, a breast mold, was from someone who wanted to make a chocolate breast for their husband for his 50th birthday, which I thought was pretty cute. Kind of took it to a different level, next level stuff. There's lots of applications for this, so you do with it what you want, but my main purpose here is in not paying $200 to $400 for a single temporary breast that you only need briefly while you're awaiting reconstruction. Or if you're not going to have reconstruction and you're just going to live with not having breast, you might still want to look normal and put something in your bra like you're used to having in your bra. And silicone definitely has a better feel for it than the puffy thing that I mentioned to you earlier. Okay. This looks like medical tape. Maybe Mike's a fan of medical tape. Of course, you know I'll have to clean that up later. Alright, so here we are with part 1. And it's liquid. I was expecting it to be powder, so you learn something new every day. And for me, I am going to dump the entire contents in here. It may take a couple minutes. Sometimes I think it's good to see real-time stuff. Nobody's paying me to do this. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my own heart. Adult beverage. Go ahead and use my nice long-handled fork here to try to get as much of this out. Again, I'm hoping to kind of come up with an extra replica of the breast and the raw, but whether it'll work or not, first goal is the insert. You know, and a lot of this too, at least for me, this has been therapeutic in the sense that when they tell you you have breast cancer, it really messes with your head. And I'm a pretty strong person. You can ask anybody who knows me. And it just, you sit there and you think about it, even though you know you shouldn't think about it, you think about it. And it just kind of feels totally out of control. And all the craziness that's involved in this has been kind of fun because it's given me something else to focus in on. My irritation for the cost of what they charge for something that you're going to use so temporary. And I even went on eBay and, you know, you could get a temporary breast if you're lucky. You could win a bid for 50, 60 bucks, maybe 70 by the time you're done paying for shipping. But, you know, bidding on that stuff, and I've been bidding on that stuff for weeks, and I keep losing my bid, because I just practically cannot justify paying that much money for something that's going to be so temporary. Okay, that's as good as that's going to get. One of the things that got really clear on MPK Enterprise website, because they do show you how to make molds for cookies and candies and all kinds of other crazy stuff, is they talk about making sure you mix this really, really good, and they actually use 2 containers, and I'm just not that prolific. I'm going to mix this as best I can in one, and hopefully that'll work out. So I'll mix it really good. You want to make sure that you get all the corners, because if you have stuff that's not mixed properly, then it doesn't mold. I was given the exact 10 to 1. This is the 10, this is the 1, this is a correct mixture. So we're going to go ahead and pour this in.